welcome to Unity Spiritual Center Pflugerville this very fun Sunday. We're happy to have everybody with us, those in the room and those via Facebook. Happy Sunday. I'm Cary, and so I'm one of the prayer chaplains in this congregation. I'm honored to be here this Sunday speaking to you. Today we are going to talk about whose truth are you believing? I'm going to start out with a recent experience that I had pulling out of the parking lot of where I work. And there's a lot of traffic. It's a busy thoroughfare, so generally you have to sit there for a little bit to wait for your turn. And there was a burgundy minivan in front of me. This minivan was very well loved. Some stickers on the back. And so one of the stickers said, I identified as a Ferrari. And it was in the colors of the Italian flag. And then on the minivan there was a window sticker that said, I am the mom of twins. I nap at red lights. And so I just love that. This is an example of someone willing to share something about themselves in a positive manner, wanting to bring others joy. And so I love that. And oftentimes Greg and I would call each other, I saw this bumper sticker, it was the best. And so it's kind of one of our ways of connecting and sharing joy with each other. So thanks to all of you who have a good sense of humor and who are willing to share that on the back of your cars. We live in a world which wonderfully offers so many different opportunities to engage, connect, and receive information. If we are curious about something, it is easier than ever to learn, whether it be via the internet, social media, streaming TV, or just reaching out to each other to find out new information. But in this era of prolific information, there's also sometimes a coexisting feeling of overwhelm. We long for the days past where it was fairly easy to tune into TV or radio for neutral journalistic reporting. I was recently reminded when reading about Walter Cronkite, who was a CBS evening news anchor who was widely regarded as the most trusted man in America. Can you imagine that? That the title that somebody gives you or the feeling that you bring to somebody is that you're their trusted ally? Pretty amazing. He had a famous sign-off, and that's the way it is. This phrase became synonymous with his style of journalism, which emphasized factual reporting without personal opinions or editorializing. Now we know he probably did have some opinions, right, and those may, have come in, but really that was a time when journalism was about reporting the facts. We are now in an era of opinions rather than facts. Social media has made it where we not only share information about our holidays, wishing each other happy birthday or happy anniversary, but it's also sometimes people try to persuade others about political or social ideas. Not everybody does this, but some people do. There was a recent Texas Monthly article about the flooding down in Kirk County and the areas near us in Georgetown and other parts of Oklahoma's experienced. There have been a lot of different areas that have had natural disasters. There is this new thing that's happening where content is posted in the wake of catastrophes, and this content is coming from what's been termed newsfluencers, not influencers, just in the way that we've been, people who are showing makeup or people who are showing travel, but people who are not trained journalists who are showing up at disaster sites giving you news. These people are unaffiliated with media organizations. They're there in rapidly unfolding crises. And what's coming out of this is oftentimes misinformation. These content creators may not take the time to find witnesses or officials to confirm information. They're kind of making it up as they go along. And sometimes when these people come into affected areas after disasters, it's sometimes difficult to tell who's who. Was a person taking a photo of a wrecked house doing journalism? Were they making a social media post? Or were they surveying their destroyed home? And then so this is kind of confusing to the people who are locals, but they don't always know who they're talking to. Now, not all news influencers provide inaccurate information, but they certainly aren't bound by or have access to processes of established media organizations, which have editors and fact checkers who assess the tastefulness and validity of their reporters' claims. Also, journalists at major organizations have the resources to spend time verifying the news they're breaking, and their careers depend on them doing so. So recently in Cary County, one of the examples of this was that someone who was a news influencer reported that 2 girls had been found alive in a tree. And so that immediately was reposted, and it gave a lot of people hope. But then the Cary County officials had to come back and say, no, that wasn't verified information. And so that contributed to the highs and the lows of the information that was already coming out. And the person who posted it didn't do it out of malice. They had actually heard it from someone that they thought was a trusted news source. But because it wasn't verified, it just created some, pain and agony for some of the families. So, one of the things I want to talk about today is where do we get our information from? How do we verify that it's good information? And so, the other piece of that is how do we stay calm in difficult times? So, Psalms 91:1 tells us, "He who dwells in the protection of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust." And then so when you think about, fortress, that protection, that feeling of total safety, that you're okay no matter what happens. But I thought it was interesting because in this verse, to me, I started thinking about the word shadow. Shadow, we know, has several different meanings. One of those is the protective cover of God, that fortress of God. The other is that when you shadow someone, you imitate them. So in which ways do we shadow God? In which ways do we shadow Jesus? Dwelling in the Most High, to me, means living in your Christ consciousness, with love as your greatest intent. So in thinking about all the places that your news from, I Googled this, I'm going to admit it. I didn't chat, but it's funny because when I have Google, it now does ChatGPT, so I have to give kudos to where kudos are due. Consider the source of the story. Avoid using social media as your primary news source. Don't base truth on politics. Think it through. Look at the obvious, look at the common signs. If it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is too good to be true. Differentiate between hard news and opinion pieces. And I think sometimes you can tell by the tone of the opinion pieces, because a lot of times opinion pieces will have language in them that makes you really emotional. Keep a list of accurate news sources, and some of those are wire services like Associated Press, which are less prone to bias than other news outlets. And then use fact-checking resources. If something in an article, you kind of go, it just doesn't sound right or that just does not resonate, dig a little bit further, see if you can get more information. And then I thought, like, why do we even seek information? Like, what is it about us that feels the need to know? So there's a couple of different things. One of them is the way our brain works, right? Our brain is there to help us. Our brain is there to help solve problems. And so when there's something external going around, we want to get more information because we want to know, how does it affect us? Is there something in this that's mine to do? And then sometimes, honestly, it's boredom. It's, I need a break from whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to go peek in at social media. I'm going to go to a website. If I go to Facebook, I'm going to go to Instagram. I'm going to see what other people are saying. The important thing is that with the brain, you have to manage the content that the brain is giving you, because we know that most of what we think is based on past experiences, opinions, judgment, based on our database of information. But sometimes we're called to go into the superconscious to say, okay, is what my brain telling me, is the information my brain giving me, is it useful? Is it really in my highest and best? Because you've got a different place that you can go than that database. You can go to your superconsciousness, your higher consciousness, and in that, when you stop and you listen and you say, how does this feel for me? What are my other higher aspirations? When you stop, you take a moment, you'll get an answer. You'll get an answer, yes or no. It's an opportunity to think differently. In thinking about the turning within for guidance, when Dee did her meditation this morning, I really like that. Your inner eyes, you know? Your inner eyes giving you an access to your truth, the truth of your Christ consciousness, the truth, the fact that you're a holy, beloved child of God. John 16:13 says that when the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into all the truth. For He will not speak on His own, but will speak whatever He hears. And He will declare to you the things that are to come. And then so again, that's, the importance of prayer and meditation and being silent. We tend to go. We tend to fill our days with all the things that we need to do. But, sometimes it's really good to just step back and go, do I really need to do that thing today? Do I really, maybe I need to rest. Maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe nature is your quiet space where you can reconnect and just refresh your mind and your spirit. I talked a little bit about listening to your intuition. Your inner compass is so powerful because your immediate reaction to an action, that's really good, right? We have these automatic responses to keep us safe, which is really great. But that amygdala, that part of your brain that's primitive, was really good when we had to outrun predators. When we lived on the land and all we had was a spear, and that was there to protect us. But, we're not outrunning too many real predators. Now, we may be outrunning some false predators in our brain, but a lot of times our reactions to things aren't really in alignment with how they really can affect us. And our brains can do a really good job of spinning a story. Our brains are super creative, which is a really good thing when you're the producer. When you're producing that story and you're saying, this is what I want to get out of the story, rather than letting your brain be that producer. So it's a real commitment and a real concentration of energy to being in charge of the information that your brain's giving you. And your intuition can be that partner. That's the thing, the intuition can be your partner. Having a trusted friend or an advisor with whom you can spend time and where you can be vulnerable, where you can be authentic, where you can be open to what you're feeling or what you're going through. Debbie and I had some sharing this morning, and for both of it was great. You know, it was, how are you? And we didn't go, oh, I'm fine. You know, we shared some things that are going on and like how we were moving through it, and it helped. We both had words of wisdom to share with each other, and we both walked away feeling a little bit lighter. There's an old proverb, a problem shared is a problem halved. And so it's that opportunity to share with each other things that are going on. And then the last one of this is count your blessings and being in gratitude for all of the blessings and all of the good that's happening. Because during troubling times, a lot of what you hear are difficult things, but there's always an opportunity to step back and go, yeah, but in this time of stuff that's messy, there's a lot of good that's happening also. John 14:27 says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. And so I was thinking about fear. You know, what am I afraid of? And then so I don't know how many of you are familiar with the phrase FOMO, fear of missing out. That used to be me. I used to say yes to every single thing that came my way. And I would get to where I was exhausted and actually missed a wedding. This is back when my mom was still alive, and I was here, you know, kind of being the healthcare advocate for my mom and my brother, and I was just totally worn out, and one of the girls I was working with was getting married. And I had so much on my plate, and she wasn't like a best friend or anything, she's somebody I worked with, and I had intended to and wanted to go to her wedding. And then so that Friday, I was just like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have anything going on this weekend. You know, I did have something going on that weekend. I had a wedding that I missed. And it was because I was saying yes to too many things. And so, in thinking about where your priorities are, be mindful about what you say yes to. I talked a little bit earlier about what do you need to feel at peace. You know, quiet time, being in nature, but getting clear and just knowing what are those things that you like to do that bring you peace or that bring you joy. I like to talk about circle of influence. So when you're thinking about where you spend your time and where you spend your efforts, and also what's within your ability to control, give your circle of influence. What is it that you can do, or what is it that you can say that is in alignment with your values, helpful to other people? Do that, and then let the rest go. So sometimes, like I know with the flooding, it was a perfect example for all of us to go. You know, maybe at some point in time, Terry, who has been an emergency responder, maybe there would have been a point in time Terry would have said, hey, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to help search. But I'm guessing right now, because of the things that you've got going on with your family and your company and everything, Terry goes, okay, well, the way I help is I pray. You know, and so it's like, and not feeling guilty, right? Not feeling guilty that you can't be down there and you can't be the boots on the ground. You know, figure out what it is that you can do and that you can do well and do that and then let it go. One of the funny things that struck me when I was thinking about this talk was the world is really good at telling us what we should do and how we should do it. A lot of you know that I'm a Jeep owner. And so Jeep has two fun things, right? One of them is the Jeep wave. So when you see another Jeep, so you know you have your hands on 10 and 2, you hold up 2 fingers. You don't wave, you know, there's a way to do this, right? And there are forms on the Jeep wave. And it's so funny, coming to church this morning, I was actually turning, and there was a Jeep sitting at the light, and I actually had the thought, I can't do the Jeep wave, I have to wave because my hand is in the air. And then I had this thought, how funny, because I had the feeling that I wasn't doing it correctly. That's, unhelpful brain. and then the other thing, I'm going to point these up to the camera so that you guys can see these. The other thing is, it's called ducking. And so Jeep owners carry ducks with them. And when you see another Jeep in the parking lot, say the grocery store, or I do this at work too sometimes, you'll put a little duck on the door handle. And that's to spread joy and to spread love. And there are all kinds of fun designs. Well, recently I was at Target and I had dropped Greg off, and he was running in to pick something up. And so I parked, and this is actually right after he got his knee surgery, so I was parked up front in the handicap parking space, waiting for him to come back out. And I see a car across from me, and people are looking at me. And I'm like, I wonder what's going on. And then pretty soon, this little bitty girl, she probably was 4 years old, comes out of her car to me, and she has this in her hands, and she's handing it to me. And I thought, because I had a few Jeeps lined up on my dashboard of my window of my Jeep, and I'm thinking, and you could tell that this meant a lot to her, but she was kind of like, she was holding it like this, and then and I thought, how sweet, she's giving me. And so what I did was, and I thought, they probably don't know anything about this tradition, right? They probably think I just collect ducks. And then so it was really cool though, because I had 2, I would call them girly ducks, and one of them was a unicorn, and I can't remember what the other one was. And then so I asked her, I said, can I give you some of my ducks? And she was so excited, and she ran it back to the car, and she was showing up her parents. But I thought, here's a little family that loves so fully, and they love so completely. And she was willing to take something that obviously meant a lot to her to give to me. And I thought, that is an amazing way to just share the truth of who you are and really why we're here, right? And then so, John 17:22, I don't think I put a new slide. Perfect. So, the glory that you have given me, I have given them, so that they may be one, as we are one, I and them and you and me, that they may become completely one, so that the world may know that you have sent me and loved them even as you have loved me. And so in the end, it all comes down to love and oneness. So no matter what external information you're being given, no matter what is happening in the world, when we come down to, it's all about how we show up for each other. Loving each other, forgiving each other, and serving each other. I mean, those are the 3 things, right? And so just a reminder that as